right, welcome to another episode of The Vault. Today we have a very special guest. He is a five-time national champion in gymnastics, specifically the vault. Right now we have Anthony McCallum. Welcome to The Vault, my friend.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. So we want to just dive right into it. I know, you have a really great story that has to do with being pretty much a professional athlete. Tell us how you got into gymnastics.
Yeah, so I got into gymnastics pretty much like most people do. My parents put me in it after a preschool class. The teacher came up to them and was like, "He's really good at these roles or whatever," and they were like, "Okay, we'll put him in." So I started when I was 3, and I just never stopped. I just kept doing it.
So then, as you got older in high school, can you tell me a little bit more about your gymnastics journey?
So yeah, I stayed at home in South Carolina for pretty much 10 years, I would say, until I was a freshman in high school. So my high school experience was a little bit different because I went into online school for the remainder of high school. So it was definitely a different experience being kind of like a full-time athlete that also does school on the side.
So, what excites you most about gymnastics? Can you tell me what you love about the sport?
Um, th- I would say the biggest thing I like about gymnastics is whenever you see something very impressive, because that's pretty much the thing about gymnastics is aiming for perfection and trying to push the boundaries of what people can do. There's always another flip or another twist you can add. And so whenever someone can achieve that and you can witness it, it's really exciting to watch. And also if you're a gymnast and you can do that yourself, that's really exciting. So
Yeah, yeah, I love seeing gymnastics in the Olympics and stuff. It's just very exciting, and it's amazing what the human body can do. What types of you talked about this before, but what types of sacrifices did you have to make, growing up for your sport?
yeah, so gymnastics is like filled with sacrifices if you really want to achieve something great. Like any sport really, but it requires a lot of time. Not too many vacations, not too many holidays off. You have to really stay close to a gym, stay close to a coach that can keep you, um, on task and doing your routines and your conditioning and stuff like that. So that's a very big sacrifice. And then, like I said, a lot of gymnasts end up being homeschooled because, like I said, it requires many hours of practice a day just to, keep up with the sport and make sure that you're competitive. So yeah, it's a lot of sacrifices. And then physically, it's a very demanding sport. So there's you're bound to get injuries pretty much if you're in gymnastics long enough. So
Yeah.
I've definitely had injuries on almost every single part of my body. So that added on to we use our hands a lot, so we get rips, we get blisters, and all kinds of things. And I remember when I was younger, I would have to put preparation H, which is for like hemorrhoids and stuff. I would have to put that on my hands so that it would, I guess disinfect the wounds and everything, and then wear gloves at night. So just little things like that. Those are big sacrifices that you make as a little kid, to do the sport you like.
Well, you had such a singular focus. I know at one point you had told me before this interview at age 17 you went to an Olympic training center in Colorado. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so I initially moved away from home when I was 15, and that was to Georgia, but that was with my mom, and that kind of split up the family, which was another sacrifice. And then when I was 17, I got an opportunity to go to the Olympic Training Center, but that would have to be by myself. So that was a huge jump for me because that was kind of a decision that I made to go away from home for pretty much for good. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. Once I got there, I was the youngest person by far. Everyone else was like 21 and up, and I was like this little teenager still in high school. So it was very isolating um, at first, and it was very intimidating. You could imagine being in high school gymnast. Of course, you feel like you're good enough to be there, but you're not quite at the level of everybody who's been there for a while. People who have probably been at world championships and Olympic games, since before you got there. So that was a very intimidating experience just in the first few weeks trying to get adjusted to a new caliber of athletes that I was always around. So
Well, props to your parents for actually having the faith to just let you leave so early to pursue that dream. And like you said, just the grind that you had. You had told me that it was really hard. There'd be times where you'd be, maybe you can elaborate on when you were getting super sad about being gone. What was that like?
yeah, so it was like I would say looking back, it was classic like homesickness. Of course, people go through that usually when they go to college for the first time, but I went through that a little bit earlier. So I left home and went to Colorado, and for about the first month, it was very rough because I was finally away from family, pretty much alone, and doing a lot of intense training. The coaches aren't as nice. They're just because you're a teenager doesn't mean that they're going to treat you any differently. So I remember like the first month I would cry before practice. I would wake up in the morning, get ready for practice, and just it might be an ugly cry one day, and then the next day it's like one tear. But every pretty much every day it was like a really deep sorrow before just to get it out before I had to go in there and have a straight face for practice. So that was really rough. And then, of course, doing that while trying to still teach myself in online school and trying to get my high school diploma. So it was really rough during that transition period.
So, can you talk about your path to becoming a champion and how that all unfolded?
Yeah, so I won NCAA's 3 times, and the first year I would say is probably the easiest time because I was coming straight from national team, and I had already been in a really good shape, and I was in really good routine shape. I was ready for pretty much any single meet that I was, um, entering. So my first year in college at Michigan was really easy compared to the other 3 years. So I was coasting a lot my first year, but it was around the time sophomore year came around. I had shoulder surgery, and I was starting to learn what it meant to come back from injuries, and realizing that doubt is a real thing in athletics, and you have to manage how you doubt yourself if you want to continue to win. So it was already a lot of expectation after my first year because I had come out of the gate winning national championships and Big Tens. So it was kind of like a standard that I had to uphold. And then the next year, I won NCAA's again. So after the next year, it was like anticipation for, are you going to win all 4 years? Because I don't think that's been done before. And if it has, maybe not too many times. But that was a lot of pressure. So it was a lot of different things going on at once. And then, of course, in college, you have to go through classes and stuff and try to get your degree. Being a champion, in my head, it was a totally different experience than I think other people see it as because I was more proud of the fact that I was able to be a student athlete and still win and still keep my sanity together, because a lot of people, they end up having to drop out or quit the team or whatever. And that was a real possibility. I wanted to make sure my mental health was right, so that I can continue to not only just like stay healthy and compete every year, but also like keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress that you had to go through, like you said, academically, physically, emotionally, and all those things came together at the same time. And yet you were still able to come out on top more than once, be the best in the country, which is so amazing. While that was all going on, what was the best advice you received from one of your coaches on your journey?
Oh, and there's so much advice that I got directly and indirectly just by watching people the way they navigated through practice and stuff. But one of the pieces of advice that my coach gave me was to always do the thing that you fear first, because a lot of times, especially in gymnastics, you're forced to do skills that you're scared of. You're forced to do things that might hurt your body. But if you want to push your difficulty in your routines, and if you want to be competitive, you have to do these skills and you have to train them every day, regardless of how you feel or if you're scared. So I think that was the biggest thing that I took from gymnastics and that I'm able to transfer into every area of my life is if I'm afraid to do something, I'm just going to do it first. So I get it out of the way. And whatever happens after that, it's easy. But if you try to do things easy and put off things, you might not ever get to the hard things that you really need to do. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that I learned.
So we're going to cut to some clips right now of you in action on the vault.
As a sophomore, injured last year. Can he win it again in his senior campaign?
Yeah, he's stuck in warm-up. Let's see. He sticks it again. Yeah.
That was really cool. I just love seeing very talented athletes at work, and you definitely are an amazing athlete for sure. I wanted to talk to you now what happens now that you're a couple months removed from being a champion, college champion that is. What are you going to do next? Are the Olympics in your future?
Yeah, so after I graduated from college, I actually retired. I made a conscious decision that I was going to use that ending of a chapter to to transition into something else, which was in the back of my head for like the last year of college anyway. So I was a film major, and I decided I was going to pursue screenwriting and producing and directing and all the things that you do as a film major. So that's what's next for me, is trying to transition and start back on ground zero like I always do. So, I used to be a big fish in a small pond in South Carolina, and then in Georgia, and then in Michigan, and now I'm a small fish again. So I realized that it's just a process, and that's one of the other things that I've learned from gymnastics is that you're not always going to start off, big. You're going to have to start off at the bottom and kind of pay your dues and learn a little bit. And I would rather it be that way anyway, because I think that's what's going to take me the furthest anyway. That's what took me the furthest in gymnastics. So
You definitely appreciate the journey more if you have to work for it, right? If it's not just handed to you. I wanted to talk to you about your rock bottom moment. Can you dig deep as far as like what was the saddest time in your life on this athletic journey that you've had?
yeah, so we talked about it before when I moved to Colorado. And like I said, that was just because I was in a deep transition internally. I had to reevaluate what my identity was as a person, because I was no longer just a high school student. I was now at the Olympic Training Center with 1 year to make it on national team, or I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was a lot of high stakes that were placed before me. And my 17-year-old self didn't know how else to handle it, but to like cry and maybe pray and FaceTime people if I missed them. And that was just a really low point. Now looking back, it's not a low point, because that was probably one of the best decisions I made in my life. But that was it. When I was in that hole, it felt like a deep hole, but it wasn't a hole at all, because it gave me kind of like a platform that allowed me to get recognition from college coaches, which then allowed me to get scholarship offers. And I don't know where I would be if it weren't for that rock bottom moment. But yeah, that definitely was a rock bottom moment.
So what advice would you give to people who are aspiring to be in gymnastics like you were?
Um, I would say trust the process. Like you said, that's actually one of the biggest mottos at University of Michigan men's gymnastics. Like, our team is above like our gym and everything. It's trust the process, and that's because gymnastics is a marathon sport. And not every day is going to be easy. You're going to get criticized every single day. You're going to go to meets and not reach your goals. You're going to get second place when you should have got first. And things are going to happen outside of the sport too. But you have to make sure that you're staying true to the course that you set for yourself and not panic. Don't panic. Don't get too caught up in winning all the time, because that's not always the best thing for you. I think some of my biggest lessons were in the meets where I messed up on national TV, or got injured on national television and had to really evaluate my my ego again. And so that's pretty much what I tell people, is to trust the process, especially when you're young, because you like to get the medals and it feels good to be a champion. But there's always someone who's out there working harder than you and is better than you. And you have to outdo them as far as staying true to the process that you set. So
So what mistakes would you say you regret along this journey so far?
Um, I would say a lot of my mistakes actually are linked to just being young because a lot of times when you're young, you just want other things and you don't have the big picture in mind. So a lot of times I think I wasted a lot of time trying to quit gymnastics. I wasted a lot of time trying to have a social life when, to be honest with you, you have the rest of your life to be social and, make friends and stuff like that. And that's something that I definitely didn't realize until now, not being in the sport, or maybe later on in my career, realizing that like you don't have gymnastics forever. And you have to really just enjoy being young and coming back from injuries quickly and taking advice and being a sponge in the gym and just taking all the advice you can because it's all this other stuff out here isn't really worth it. I don't think that I would have been where I am today if I were to quit because of my naive mind telling me to, want to go to prom. Like now I really don't care about prom. I'm so happy I didn't go because I was able to go to travel all over the country and, do so many things. So that's definitely a big thing I would say. And then just procrastinating. Like I said earlier, doing things that I was scared of way too late. You have to be prepared to do things in routines. So you have to do them every single day. You have to practice every single day. Don't take shortcuts because you're really only hurting yourself.
So, real quick, what would you tell your younger self advice wise now knowing what you know?
Um, what would I say? I would say listen more because the biggest thing about gymnastics is taking corrections and using that to get better. And that's something that I was good at, and it helped me be a good gymnast, but I could have been way better at it. And I probably could have gone even further if I listened a little bit more and believed my coaches when they told me to do a skill a certain way and not, rely on how I'm naturally feeling in my head and just do what they say because they're the professionals and they've coached, many great gymnasts before you and they know. So that's definitely something I would tell myself too, is stop trying to be like the smartest person in the room. Like there's so much you don't know still.
I agree. I mean, when you think you know everything, that's when you know nothing, right? So I wanted to segue into, the vault is all about the secrets of success and unlocking those secrets. What are some secrets you could unlock to your success?
Um, so actually one of the more interesting things that I learned in college, we had like these mindfulness workshops that our teams did. And one thing that we learned was that you have to know yourself in order to meet the goals that you want. So that includes knowing your weaknesses. So that's one of the biggest things that I would say is in my vault is always trying to be authentic to who I am and knowing what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what my bad habits are. Um, because no one can tell you anything about yourself if you already know it. Like it's not going to affect you in any way because you know what all your weaknesses are. You know what you can bring to any table, and you know what you can't. You know where you need help, and so that also goes into learning what part you play on a team and realizing that just because you have certain skills, you might have even more skills than someone else, but that doesn't make you any more important. That just means that you have a certain responsibility to any team that you are a part of. So, yeah.
Cool, cool. And so, as far as success, what would you say your definition of success would be?
Ooh, my definition of success, I don't know, it changes from day to day. Because yesterday I might have said having $1 million, but today maybe my definition of success would be, oh, so you got it.
We'll solve that for you right now.
Well, I think my definition today, and my definition today would be that success is the amount of people that you're able to inspire, because that's really all that you have when everything is over. I'm not competing in gymnastics anymore, but I still get people DMing me on Instagram or whatever, or coming up to me in person and saying what the moment they saw me do vault meant to them or whatever, and inspired them to work hard or whatever. And that means more to me than any of the rings or the medals and stuff like that, to be honest. I don't really wear the rings. I don't really wear the medals. I look at them every now and then, but it's really the people that you touch and they let you know that. That's really what makes you happy, and it actually improves your day. It might improve your week. So I think that's what success is, and that's what I think drives me. I want people to always, for the rest of my life, tell me what I've done has helped them, or improved their life.
I love that. I love the fact that what you've done has inspired so many people. And, now I think hopefully now our audience knows, once again, the sacrifices you had to make on all those levels, emotionally, physically, and competing against the best. I wanted to, while you were talking about it, you were saying you had a ring. Did you happen to have one near you that you could show us?
Yeah, I just came back from Michigan for like a ring ceremony at the big house, and this isn't my NCAA ring, but it's my Big Ten ring. I don't know if you can see it, but it has my last name on this side, and it says the team, the team, the team, and then Team 75, which is the year that's the team that actually won, Big Ten regular season. And so, yeah.
So you have, how many of those do you have?
This is my fourth one, so I have one more coming that I'm designing right now.
Wait, so you have 4 and you're gonna have 5?
Yeah, I have one class ring, I have this Big Ten ring, and then I have 3 NCAA rings.
So you have like you look like Michael Jordan almost, like with all your rings, or the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I can't wait to get all of them so I could maybe take a picture of that.
Yeah. I want it, when you get that picture, you guys send it to us. I think that's really great. And the fact that, like you said, just last weekend you were being honored for that, that must have been such a great feeling to go back home to your college and have them, really recognize your hard work. That's really great. But, I think I want to also have you tell our audience, your prized possession, though, isn't those rings. What is that prized possession?
Oh, my prized possession was actually a surprise, because I came home from college. I graduated, moved all my stuff back home to South Carolina, and got a call from the mayor of the city, Columbia, South Carolina, which is the capital. And I showed up there, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the key to the city. We're giving it to you." And then I was like, great, wow. And then I went home and I researched the kinds of the other people who have gotten the key to the city in the past, and it was like Jay-Z and Beyonce and who else was it? It was just so many other people, famous people, and I was like, wow, I'm on this list with all these people, and that's crazy. I don't think too many things will be able to top that for a while. So
what doors does that key open? Like the mayor's office, and then maybe the
I don't know. I have no.
You got to test it out when you go back.
Right. I have to go back and see what it unlocks. Maybe it'll unlock I don't know, a mansion or something.
Yeah. We're really interested in hearing about your progress. Once again, congratulations on being a 5-time national champion. And now as you embark on your film career, that is another exciting journey you're about to go, get into. And the last question we have for you is, where do you live online? Where can our audience find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on Twitter, but my Instagram is my name. It's Anthony McCallum, with 2 I's at the end. And so, yeah, that's my Instagram. And then Twitter is ANT_, and then my last name, MCCALLUM.
Anthony, I'm so glad you're on our show. Thank you again. We'd love to have you anytime. Come back. We want to hear about your film journey. And also, we want to, when you get all those 5 rings, come back to the vault. We want to have another conversation.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. Take care. All right, so if you guys want to be a guest on this show, we would love to have you. We're looking for people, once again, top in the entertainment, sports, and business industry, inspirational content, people who are movers and shakers. We want you on our show, and thanks again for watching The Vault.
Thank you.